She didn't even hug me when she walked in the door. Just dropped her suitcase in the hallway like it was an afterthought, pulled off her coat in one motion and tossed it over the railing. No kiss. No smile. No, I missed you. Just a distracted glance over my shoulder and a lazy hey. The sound of her heels walking away from me was louder than it should have been. Not because of the shoes, because something in the silence between us had changed shape. Her flight had landed 3 hours earlier. She texted once, landed. Exhausted. I waited with her favorite coffee and a clean house, thinking she'd be grateful, maybe even happy. Instead, I got a ghost. She went straight upstairs and turned on the shower. I didn't follow. I sat on the bottom stair for 20 minutes, listening to the sound of water crashing down, thinking about how strange it all felt. I couldn't explain it, there was no single detail out of place, but the whole thing was wrong. Like the painting of our life had been smudged overnight and no one could see it but me. I told myself to let it go. Business trips are draining. She was probably tired, overwhelmed. Maybe she just needed space. But then I found the blouse. It was buried beneath other clothes in the laundry basket like it had been deliberately hidden but not well enough. A silky, off-white top she wore sometimes when she wanted attention. I almost passed over it, but something, curiosity, or maybe some stubborn whisper of instinct, made me lift it. I held it up, trying to find what was bothering me. And then I saw them. Faint, dry white marks, high enough to make my brain click in the worst possible way. I don't know how long I stood there, just staring at it. At first, I wanted to believe it was makeup. Lotion. Toothpaste, even. But the placement didn't make sense. The texture was off. My hands were shaking and I couldn't stop the cold wave that washed over me. Not just suspicion, certainty. I didn't confront her right then. Instead, I put the blouse in a sealed Ziploc bag and drove to a private lab downtown that offered discreet biological testing. It was impulsive. Obsessive. But I couldn't think straight. I needed to know. I told the lab it was for a court case. That was a lie, obviously, but the tech didn't care. They took the sample, told me I'd have results in 48 hours. When I got home, she was already asleep. Face buried in a pillow, one leg over the blanket like she always slept. I stood in the doorway, staring at her back. I tried to remember the last time we touched without it feeling forced. I couldn't. Something inside me cracked that night. The next day, she was cheerful. Too cheerful. Made pancakes, danced barefoot in the kitchen while some old jazz song played on her phone. She even offered to give me a shoulder massage. I played along, pretending I wasn't 2 days away from detonating everything. But the performance made it worse. She wasn't herself. She was someone wearing her skin. The worst part? She was good at it. On the second evening, I got the call. The test results were in. Positive for a highly aggressive, incurable STD. My throat went dry. I asked the technician to repeat the name. He did. I knew what it was. You couldn't get it from a public bathroom or a casual handshake. It was intimate. Close contact. There was no ambiguity. I felt like the room was tilting. And then, because apparently the universe wasn't done shattering my mind, that same evening my buddy Ethan sent me a message that almost made me throw up. Dude, I think your wife is in this video. Attached was a Dropbox link. No explanation. I clicked it and everything stopped. I watched her laughing. Not just smiling, laughing like a person on vacation, like someone in love. With someone who wasn't me. It wasn't just one video. It was a folder. Different angles, different hotel rooms. Same man, same betrayal. They recorded themselves. Multiple times. She knew. She wasn't some victim of a mistake. This was premeditated, deliberate. She didn't even try to hide it from someone who had access to these files. She knew they existed. And yet she came home, slept beside me, ate my food, let me touch her, knowing full well what she had done, and what she might have given me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark, staring at the wall, letting the storm build. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to wait for the perfect moment. Because if she wanted to live in a lie, then I'd give her the performance of a lifetime. 2 mornings later. I watched her brush her teeth like nothing was wrong. She was humming again. Off-key, tuneless, oblivious. That's what hit me the hardest. The ease of it. The way she moved through our house like it was hers alone. Like I didn't exist. Like the damage hadn't already happened and wasn't crawling under my skin. minute by minute. I had an appointment. Not with a lawyer, not yet, but with my doctor. I needed to know if she had infected me. I walked into the clinic calm, controlled. They took blood, did a full screening, and asked if there had been exposure. I didn't answer. I just nodded once. That waiting period nearly broke me. Every second stretched like wire over fire. I kept looking at her, wondering how many lies were stacked between us. Wondering if she felt even a flicker of guilt. But all I saw was arrogance. She started dressing differently, tighter clothes, bolder lipstick, like she was trying to be noticed. Like she was hunting. That night, she had the nerve to invite friends over. People from her office. I sat there while she laughed too hard at one guy's jokes. A guy with sharp hair and a cologne that hung in the air like poison. I didn't say anything. I just memorized his face. The next morning I got the call. Negative. Clean. The sigh that escaped me felt like my soul evacuating my body. I was still standing. I was still intact. But the relief didn't last long. Because with that single test result I realized something deeper. She knew what she had. And she hadn't warned me. That wasn't just cheating. That was war. I waited for her to leave the house that day. She said she had errands. That she'd be gone most of the afternoon. I tracked her phone to a location that didn't match any store she'd mentioned. I screenshotted it. Saved it. Then I went into her side of the closet. She kept a box of keepsakes at the very top behind a stack of unused pillows. I pulled it down. Inside were letters. Old photos. A few receipts. And a separate folder labeled private. She never noticed when I was quiet. That was her mistake. She thought I was weak because I wasn't loud. Inside the folder were tickets. One-way flights. Dinner bills from cities I hadn't been to. 2 different hotel loyalty cards. 2 phone numbers scribbled on cocktail napkins. One had a heart drawn next to it. I didn't feel rage. Not then. What I felt was clarity. I wasn't dealing with someone who made a mistake. I was living with someone who designed this life. Who built a secret world inside ours and kept it alive with lies and lip gloss and laughing at dinners. Someone who believed I would never look deep enough to find it. She came home at sunset, all sunshine and perfume. I was already sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, videos queued up. She stopped cold when she saw the screen. "Hey," I said quietly, "you should sit down." She didn't move, just stared. "What are you watching?" I turned the laptop so she could see. The video started to play. Her face too close to the camera. That laugh. His hand around her waist. She turned white. "I think you already know," I said. "But don't worry. There's more." I clicked to the second video. The one where she looked straight into the lens and said his name. Not mine. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not at first. Then she tried. "I can explain," I raised a hand. Not to hit, not to silence. Just to pause. "No," I said. "You will explain. Every minute. Every lie. Every stain. And then I'll decide if I ever let you walk through that door again." She blinked. Shook her head like she was waking from a dream. "You're being dramatic, dramatic." My voice cracked, low and lethal. "You came home with a disease. With evidence all over your clothes. With a smile on your face. And you think I'm being dramatic?" She tried to change her tone. "Soft now. Manipulative. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't care enough not to," I said. She looked around like she was searching for the version of me who would fall apart. Who would beg? Who would ask what he did wrong? But that guy wasn't home anymore. He'd packed up and left the moment she pressed play in that video. And now I was ready to write the ending. She didn't cry. That was the first thing I noticed. She didn't break down. No, how could I? No desperate apologies, no collapse into guilt. Instead, she stood perfectly still in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest like I was the one being unreasonable. "I didn't want you to find out this way," she said, carefully choosing her words. Like this was a job interview. Like she'd rehearsed this. It was supposed to be over. I didn't blink. "It's not over. It's recorded. Multiple times. You had souvenirs." She actually had the audacity to scoff. "Don't act like you're innocent either. We haven't been close in months. You've been distant, cold, like I'm just a roommate to you." There it was. The rewrite. The shift. She was building her new narrative in real time, painting herself as the neglected woman, the misunderstood partner who had to find warmth somewhere else. I saw it in her eyes. Calculated. Practiced. I didn't take the bait. Don't project, I said, voice low. You were lying to my face while planning vacations with him. Don't reduce this to we grew apart. You wanted this. You wanted him. She stayed silent for a moment, jaw clenched. Then came the pivot. You have no idea what it's been like living with you. Ah, the classic move. Blame the person you betrayed. You didn't say a word, I replied. You danced around me, threw smiles like confetti, and played house knowing you were rotting it from the inside. That hit something. She finally flinched. Then, as if needing to reassert control, she walked to the sink, poured herself a glass of water like we were mid-conversation about something trivial. I watched her drink. Watched her pretend this wasn't an earthquake. She was already trying to measure her escape route. You're not even angry, she said, turning back to me. You're just cold. Like you're waiting for a cue. I leaned forward. I already had the tests done, I said. I'm clean. That stopped her. I know what you have. I know who you got it from. I know his name, his job, his face. I know how long it's been going on. I know about the second phone, the fake client dinners, the money you took from our savings. Her lips parted slightly. She wasn't ready for that one. You left a trail, I continued. A stupidly arrogant, glittering trail of carelessness. You thought I was blind because I trusted you. A beat of silence. Then she tried again. It was supposed to end. I was going to cut him off. I didn't mean for a stop, I said. You meant every second. You chose every second. And now I get to choose what happens next. And that was when I told her what I'd already set in motion. I sent everything to your boss. Her face collapsed just for a second. A real reaction. Panic. Wah, not just the videos, I went on. The hotel bills charged to the company card. The fake client invoices. The screenshots of the messages you accidentally backed up to our shared cloud. Oh, and the timeline. Turns out you weren't even in Miami the full time you claimed to be. The firm loves a good scandal, don't they? She dropped the glass. It shattered. And there it was, the first crack in her performance. Not rage. Not regret. Fear. You're trying to ruin me. No, I said, standing up. You ruined yourself. I'm just not covering for it. She stood there frozen, surrounded by shards of glass, mouth twitching as if 1,000 lies were fighting for air. I walked past her, not flinching when my shoe crunched down on the broken pieces. I didn't care if I bled. There was something much bigger bleeding between us now, and it wasn't going to stop. The phone calls started the next morning. Not from her, from her boss. The message was short, clipped, and heavy. We'll be reviewing her role in light of recent evidence. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. No outrage, no denial, just cold corporate speak for. She's finished. I didn't reply. She was still asleep upstairs, on the edge of the bed, facing the wall like I wasn't there. I hadn't touched her in 3 days. She hadn't touched me in months. But now, the silence between us was made of lead. I could hear her breathing. I could hear every shift in her weight. But she didn't speak. At 7:46 a.m. her phone buzzed. Then again. Then nonstop. She sat up. Checked it. I watched her entire posture stiffen as she read the messages. Then she looked at me. You didn't have to do this, she whispered, voice cracking for the first time. You didn't have to destroy everything. I didn't answer. Because she still didn't get it. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just clearing the debris she created. I was done pretending I owed her protection after what she handed me. But she didn't shut up. She stood up, hair a mess, mascara smudged from the night before, and launched into the full performance. No script this time. Just raw, scrambling survival. I made a mistake, okay? She said, voice rising. Yes, I cheated. Yes, I lied. But you don't destroy someone's career over that. You went too far. I turned slowly, looked her dead in the eyes. You gave me a disease, I said, calm and steady. You didn't even tell me. You let me find out from a lab tech. That's not fair, no, I cut her off. What's not fair is that I had to learn who you really are because you couldn't be decent enough to warn me. You let me get into that bed knowing. You crossed a line no apology will ever reach. Her shoulders dropped. She reached for the bedpost like she might collapse. But I didn't move to help. I stood like stone. Please, she said, finally, quieter now. I'll fix it. I'll quit my job. I'll do whatever you want. Just, don't leave. Don't blow this up. That's when it hit me. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the life I gave her. She was bargaining for comfort, for control, for status. Not for love, not for trust. And something broke cleanly in me when I realized that. I already filed for separation, I said, my voice like cold glass. Papers will be at your office by Friday. I'll be staying with my brother until then. You've got until the end of the week to get out. Her mouth fell open. Nothing came out. Not even a breath. I picked up my overnight bag, slung it over my shoulder, and headed downstairs. She didn't follow. I stopped at the door and looked back once. Just once. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. And I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt clean. For the first time in months, my brother didn't ask questions when I showed up at his apartment with a bag over my shoulder and that dead-eyed look I couldn't shake off. He just opened the door wider, stepped aside, and let me in. He offered beer. I said no. We sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence you only get between people who know each other too well to pretend. Eventually, I told him everything. Not just the affair, not just the test results or the videos. I laid out the whole timeline, the business trip, the fake smiles, the way she laughed with another man on camera like she hadn't promised me forever. He didn't interrupt. He didn't flinch. When I was done, he only said, "So what now?" And I realized I didn't know. I had filed the separation papers. I had dropped the evidence into her professional world like a grenade. I had packed a bag and walked out of the house we built together. But I still didn't know what I wanted. Divorce was the obvious path. But part of me didn't want just an ending. I wanted accountability. I wanted her to feel what she made me feel. Not just in her job, in her soul. So I came up with a plan. She had one weakness, her reputation. She'd spent years crafting the image of a driven, polished, untouchable professional. Everything in her world was curated, her Instagram, her LinkedIn, even her so-called friendships were all filtered through how she wanted to be perceived. She was a master of the performance. Until now, I gathered every message she sent to him, every photo, every calendar event she thought I couldn't see because she labeled them with fake project names. I collected audio recordings from our home security system, tiny fragments of overheard calls when she didn't know the mic was still rolling. Then I reached out to the man she cheated with. His name was Eric, mid-30s, a regional sales rep for some pharmaceutical company. He was married. I didn't contact his wife. Not yet. First, I sent him a message. No threats. Just a single line and an attachment. Might want to get tested. Also, check the dates. You weren't the only one. Took him 3 hours to respond. Who is this? I didn't answer. The next day, he showed up at my house. My house, where she still was, still pretending the world hadn't caved in. I wasn't there, but my brother's neighbor, old guy, sharp eyes, gave me the play-by-play. Said Eric banged on the door, yelling. Said she opened it, let him in, then there was shouting. Slamming. Glass breaking. Then silence. Then Eric stormed out and peeled off down the street. She called me 12 times that night. I didn't pick up once. She left voicemails. First furious, then tearful, then silent ones where I could hear her breathing like she didn't know how to speak anymore. Good. She was unraveling. But this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. About letting the truth finally shine in every corner she'd kept in shadow. She wanted to live a double life? Then she'd live with the double destruction of it. A day later, I dropped the second bomb. I sent everything to her family. Not out of spite, but because they needed to stop believing the perfect version of her that she fed them like candy. They deserved to know who they'd been defending every time they said, "She's just stressed," or "You need to appreciate her more." That silence from her side of the battlefield? It turned into screaming. Texts. Emails. Then finally, the last voicemail I'll ever keep. "You ruined everything. Are you happy now?" No. Not happy. But finally, 3.2 days after she left that voicemail, I drove back to the house. Not for her. For the rest of my things. She wasn't there when I arrived, probably staying with a friend or maybe just hiding wherever shame goes to survive. The place was a mess. Furniture slightly off, like she'd moved through it in a panic. A broken glass still on the floor from that night. I didn't clean it up. I walked through each room slowly, like I was saying goodbye to a version of my life that didn't exist anymore. The hallway where we used to hang photos? Half of them were gone. She took the ones that made her look happiest, left the ones where I was holding her. In the bedroom, the closet was half empty. Some of her clothes remained, tossed into boxes like she couldn't stand to fold the lies. I opened one drawer, found the wedding album. She didn't take it. That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny. Because it was exactly who she was. She'd taken the clothes, the makeup, the shiny symbols, but left the thing that held the truth. The day we smiled so hard our cheeks hurt. The vows she broke. The photos that, in hindsight, looked like stills from a script neither of us understood. I packed what I needed. A few shirts. My books. A watch my father gave me that she never liked. The rest could rot. But then something caught my eye. Her laptop. Still on the desk, screen glowing faintly, half closed. I shouldn't have touched it. I know that. But curiosity didn't feel like a crime anymore, it felt like justice. The moment I opened it, I realized she hadn't logged out of her messages. And there it was. Not just one affair. 3. Different cities. Different men. Different lies. Some overlapped. Some didn't. One of them? Her ex. The one she told me was toxic and blocked forever. I sat down. I read everything. There were photos, yes, but what hit me harder were the words. The way she spoke to them. She reused lines. Recycled pet names. Said, "I've never felt this safe before," to 2 of them in the same week. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about love. It was about control. She didn't just want attention. She wanted to conquer people. To make them orbit her. She fed on being wanted like it was oxygen. She played the loyal wife to me. The thrill seeker to them. And probably a different woman to herself when she looked in the mirror. I didn't copy the messages. Didn't screenshot anything. I just closed the laptop calmly and left it right where I found it. Let her wonder if I saw. Let that paranoia live in her bones forever. On the way out, I left her a note. Just one sentence written in clean black ink: "If the truth hurts, maybe you should stop lying." Then I locked the door behind me, walked to my car, and drove away with the sun rising in the rearview mirror. That was the last time I stepped foot in that house. And I didn't feel like I lost a home. I felt like I escaped a cage. The first week away from her was eerily quiet. No confrontations, no grand apologies, no public meltdowns. I half expected a surprise visit, some dramatic declaration on my brother's doorstep. But she didn't show. She didn't even try to reach out. Not because she'd moved on. Because she was calculating. She was always quietest when planning her next move. So when the email came, I knew it was the opening note to Act 2 of her performance. It was sent from a new address, clean, professional, sterile. Subject line, closure. No greeting. Just a typed letter. "I've accepted everything that's happened. I understand your anger, but I want to remind you that people make mistakes, and pain doesn't justify public humiliation. What you've done to my career has consequences beyond me. I hope someday you can look at your actions with the same critical lens you turned on me." There was no apology. Not a single "I'm sorry." Just a deflection cloaked in faux emotional maturity. A last-ditch grab at the moral high ground, hoping I'd feel guilty enough to call off the avalanche. Hoping I'd question myself, maybe even feel pity. Instead, I felt vindicated. She wasn't shattered. She was strategizing. She didn't want closure. She wanted a reset, a loophole, an exit from the consequences without actually facing them. I didn't reply, but apparently that silence made her panic. 2 days later, I got a message from an old mutual friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. He asked if everything was okay because, according to her, I had gone off the rails, was slandering her out of bitterness, and needed help. She was trying to flip the narrative, to weaponize empathy, to paint herself as the tragic heroine in some story where she slipped once and was hunted for it. She underestimated how much people had seen. The videos had made quiet rounds. I never leaked them to the world, but I didn't stop others from seeing the truth. I didn't stop her patterns from catching up to her. By the end of the week, 2 of the men she cheated with had messaged me. Not her, me. One apologized. The other swore he didn't know she was married. Apparently, she told each one a different story. One was told I was abusive. Another thought we were already divorced. One even believed she'd never been married at all. She wasn't just a liar. She was an architect of alternate realities. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was fascinated. But I was also done. Done tracing the threads of her damage. Done trying to understand how deep her manipulation went. That wasn't my responsibility anymore. It never was. I blocked her new email, changed my number, and started the real work, not revenge, not exposure, just rebuilding. Because her chapter in my life was over. But mine? Mine was just getting started. 2 weeks passed without hearing her voice, and I didn't realize how deeply I'd needed that silence until it became normal. But healing is never quiet, not really. It stirs. It shakes you at night. It makes you remember things you thought were meaningless, like the way she used to leave the kitchen light on because she was afraid of dark corners, or how she hummed the same stupid melody every time she made coffee. Your brain replays those loops not to hold on, but to exorcise them. I spent those weeks gutting out the version of myself that was built around her. I donated half my clothes, bought a new phone, started running again, something she used to roll her eyes at, calling it pointless cardio. I went to therapy once, just to see what it would feel like to say her name out loud to someone who didn't know her. I didn't say her name. I called her the woman who broke everything. Felt more accurate. But then something happened I wasn't prepared for. Her mother reached out. A number I didn't recognize. A brief text. "Can we talk? Please. Just me." First, I ignored it. Then I remembered her mother warned me once. Years ago. During the engagement, I was helping set up for her father's birthday, and her mother pulled me aside in the garage and said, "Low and careful. She can be difficult. You don't have to marry difficult." I should have listened. I called her back. She sounded exhausted, like someone who'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. "I'm not here to defend her," she said immediately. "I'm just ashamed, and I want you to know you didn't deserve this." I waited. She continued. I confronted her. She lied at first. Then I showed her what I'd seen. What others had shown me. She broke down, but not the way you'd expect. No remorse. No accountability. Just fear. She's not sorry. She's just terrified of losing everything. I didn't say anything. She sighed. I think she learned it from me. The lying. The pretending. Her whole life's been about controlling the narrative. I tried to protect her from consequences. Maybe this is what it looks like when they all finally arrive. It was the first honest thing anyone connected to her had ever said to me. I thanked her. She asked if I was filing for divorce. Yes, I said. It's already in motion. Another pause. Then quietly, good. That was it. She didn't ask me to reconsider. Didn't beg for forgiveness on her daughter's behalf. She just said good and hung up. That night, I opened the wedding album again. Only this time, I didn't feel pain. I felt distance. Like I was looking at strangers. A man who believed love would protect him from deception. And a woman who smiled through an entire ceremony while knowing her promises would mean nothing. I tore out one photo. The last one in the book. The one where she kissed me on the forehead like a mother, not a wife. I burned it. Watched the edges curl, blacken, and disappear. When it was gone, I realized I wasn't holding on to memories anymore. I was holding space. And I was finally ready to fill it with something real. The divorce hearing was set. No courtroom drama. Just paperwork, signatures, and silence. She didn't contest anything. Not the split, not the assets, not even the conditions I listed. That, more than anything, told me how deep her fear had burrowed. She knew I'd built a file that could torch her image in every corner of her professional and personal life. She didn't want war. She wanted it buried. And I was fine with that. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. But even endings have aftershocks. The last time I saw her was in the parking lot of the courthouse. She was standing near her car, dressed too carefully, face made up like she was trying to erase the damage with foundation and lipstick. She didn't see me at first. I stood behind a tinted window, watching her check her reflection in the side mirror, adjusting her earrings like it was a photo shoot. She wasn't crying. She was composing herself, still performing, even now. Then she turned and saw me. We locked eyes. No words, no gestures. Just the kind of stare that compresses everything you've ever felt for someone into a single, airless second. And that's when it hit me. I didn't hate her. I just didn't know her. I never did. Everything I thought we were building was scaffolding. And she? She was the architect of a house with no foundation. The kind that looks beautiful from the outside but collapses the moment you lean on it. I stepped out of the car, walked toward her. She stood straighter, braced. I signed, I said, "It's done." She nodded. Then, barely audible, she said, "Did you ever love me?" I didn't look away. Yes. Fully. Honestly. Without conditions. She blinked. Something moved behind her eyes. "And you?" I asked. "Did you ever love me? Or just the idea of someone who believed you were better than this?" Her silence was the only answer I needed. I walked away. Didn't look back. By the time I hit the street, I felt lighter. Not because the marriage was over. Because I was. I was done giving meaning to things that didn't deserve it. I was done carrying a weight she never intended to lift with me. That night, I took off my ring. Dropped it in the ocean. Let it sink. And with it, every false promise she ever made. They say healing isn't linear, but mine felt like a fuse. There was no slow fade. No bittersweet reflection. Just an ignition, the quiet crackle of something burning off inside me, followed by clarity so sharp it didn't feel earned. It felt necessary. It started with small things. Sleeping through the night without dreaming of her face twisted in betrayal. Eating a full meal without tasting the ash of what we used to be. Looking in the mirror and recognizing the man staring back, not as a victim, not as a husband, but as someone whole, no longer defined by what had been stolen from him. I moved into a new place. Smaller, quieter. The walls didn't echo with memory. The drawers didn't hold lies. I filled it with new things. Books she would have rolled her eyes at. Art that made me feel something. Furniture that didn't match because I didn't need it to impress anyone. I stopped checking her socials. Stopped asking mutuals how she was. I let her become what she always was, a stranger playing the role of a partner. A name with no weight. And then came the moment that surprised me most, forgiveness. Not for her. Not for what she did. But for myself. For not seeing it sooner. For staying too long. For believing too hard. Because what no one tells you is that the real poison of betrayal isn't the moment it happens, it's the way it makes you question your own intuition. You start rewriting every memory, wondering if the laughter was fake, if the love was borrowed, if you were ever truly there. But I was. I loved honestly. I gave fully. I trusted without condition. And that's not weakness. That's something she'll never understand. That's something no one can take from me. So this is my closure, not hers. This is for the man who found the stains and chose truth over comfort. For the man who saw the videos and didn't break. For the man who was betrayed, infected, lied to, and left standing in the fire and walked out, not burned, but reforged. If you're reading this and you've been there or you're there right now, let me say this clearly, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not unworthy. You are simply the one who loved more than they deserved. And now? Now you get to live the life you deserve. One built on truth, on loyalty, on peace. Not perfection, just peace. That's how this story ends. And it's how mine begins.